Ooh, recording is in progress. All right. So thank you for joining me this afternoon. We're going to have just a really brief announcement and then a quick training on how to edit the contact information in PointCare, with the emphasis being for collecting email addresses. Now, obviously, email addresses we use from time to time to communicate with families and to send paperwork back and forth, but this is something entirely different and is going to necessitate us getting email addresses for our primary caregivers. And here's why. As everyone knows, for a long time, we've been talking about CAPS, right? And we are always talking about the CAPS survey that gets sent out to caregivers, usually 8 to 10 weeks after their loved one passes away on our service, and that survey gets sent to them. We know, and we've talked about for a long time, that that is a paper survey. It's uh, something like 49 questions in total, and it's kind of cumbersome. It kind of hits at a weird time in the grieving process, and our return rate. So when we send out these surveys, we look at return rates as well as the survey responses we get, and our return rates are consistently low. Now, that's not us as an organization. That is hospice in general, nationwide. Survey return rates are kind of low for everybody, which is why when you go to a car dealership, what do? They put that survey thing in front of you and say, hey, can you go right now? Can you give us a good 4-star or 5-star rating on Google? Can you do this survey? Make sure you do the survey. They remind you when you leave. I bought a car this summer, so this is all real fresh in my memory, because they told me probably 20 times before I left that dealership, please do the survey. Now, we can't do that with our patients' families. There's very little we can actually say about the survey, but because this process and this survey has kind of been cumbersome, Medicare has actually done something that we've been asking them to do for a long time. And so starting next year, they are introducing what they're calling a webmail option, which means they're going to email the primary caregiver, and there's going to be a link so they can take the survey electronically, which is great news. Great news for all hospices, right? We want to increase that return rate. So the way it's going to work is, another new thing they've added is what they're calling a pre-notification letter, which means they are actually 7 days before the survey window opens, they will send out a pre-notification letter to that primary caregiver. So it's always important to have the correct address, so they get snail mail from us or from Medicare to the right place. And now they're going to send that pre-notification letter, and it's going to say, hey, you're going to have a survey come to your email address. Please complete that. And then on day one of that window opening for the survey, they're going to send an email. And they're going to send an email to whatever email address we have flagged as the primary caregiver in home care home base, just like the paper survey gets sent to whoever we have flagged as the primary caregiver. So we want to make sure that those email addresses that we're going to ask you to collect and start inputting into home care home base are accurate, right? So you have to be real careful with the emails, because you get one character off and that thing's not going to the right place. But day one, they send an email invitation. If they haven't responded or clicked that link to complete the survey on day 3, they send another email. And then a couple days later, they actually go ahead and send the paper survey out. And then they send a second one out if that first one doesn't get responded to. So exciting that hopefully we're going to get more responses. We're going to get be able to increase that return rate on our surveys, but it is important that we all know how to actually put an email address into PointCare. So if you're in PointCare, here's the catch. Just like for right now, when you're updating your plans of care, you have to be in a visit to edit contact information. So once you start your visit on your tablet, right, you go to that first visit actions menu, where you are able to go into your assessment and all that stuff. It's pictured here on the left. One of those things you can do is edit demographics. So you're going to open that demographics menu up, and this visit action screen looks like a nurse's visit action screen. So social workers, spiritual care coordinators, if you're looking at this, it's probably going to look a little bit different for you because nurses, I believe, have a little bit more on this screen, but you will all have demographics, right? So you go into the demographics, and then that's going to open up this menu on the right, and you're going to go down to the fourth option down, which is contacts, and you just tap on contacts. That's going to open up the demographics window that has all of your contacts in it. And you'll notice right next to contacts, the word edit in red there. You can tap that edit text, and it will open up the menu to list all of the caregivers where we can actually edit that. Now, this top right screen you see is got the family members, the caregivers listed. And to the very right of each of those boxes, you'll see a meatball, what we call a meatball menu, which is just the three dots lined up vertically. You tap that, and it's going to open up this menu on the bottom right where you can either edit, delete, or add a bereavement risk assessment. Now, everybody knows about bereavement risk assessments, right? So this is one place you can do that. But if you tap edit there, it's going to open up that individual contacts information where you can edit who that person is, what kind of contact it is. The main takeaways here are that we want to make sure that the primary caregiver, the person we want to receive the survey, is flagged with that checkbox on primary caregiver, because what happens when they extrapolate the caregiver data to send the survey out, whoever we have in home care home base marked as the primary caregiver is the person that's going to get that survey. So we want to make sure that that is flagged. And then if you kind of go down there below the name and the address, the first thing that comes up is email. So you're just going to type the email address in there and then hit save at the bottom. After that, you go back, you do your visit, you do all your plan of care interventions and all that stuff. You do your narrative note, and then you sync. And once you sync, all that information, anything you changed or edited in demographics, is going to be updated in back office. So we said you can only do this in a visit, right? So what happens, because we know we communicate with family members, caregivers all the time. Sometimes we text, we call, sometimes they email us, and we already have their email address, right? But if you get this information from the caregiver and you're not in a visit or about to be in a visit, so you can do it while you're in the visit, we're just going to ask that you click the TAs, your TA or the TA team for your office, and just ask them to update that caregiver with that email address that you're going to send. The main thing here is we want to be careful, because we know that when we receive information, then we pass it along. Like if you play the telephone game, right? The information isn't always the same when it gets to the end. So we want to make sure that those are accurate. So just double check, triple check yourself when you're sending that to the team assistants or the TAs. And we've asked them to do that as well, and make sure that when they receive those, they're asking folks that click them with that information, hey, can you double check this is how it's going in the record? And then even after they update it, you can go back in the record after you sync and double check it for yourself. So exciting. We're going to have an electronic version. Now this doesn't start, so it will start with any decedents from April on. So it means if someone dies from April 1st on, the survey is going to go out electronically, and it'll actually be a different survey. I didn't kind of clue y'all in yet on that, but they're actually have made quite a few changes to the survey. They've decreased the amount of questions, so they got rid of some questions, and they consolidated some questions. They've added a couple of new ones, and we'll be doing formal training on what that new survey looks like and what all those questions are after the first of the year. So the people that are going to be affected by this start April 1st. So anybody that dies in April, when they get that survey, and that will be a couple months later, right? So we anticipate that the actual surveys are going to start July, because anybody that dies in April, they're pushed back a couple of months. So that survey will start going out in July. But we will have, like I said, formal training on what that actual survey looks like. But We want to be in the habit now of collecting email addresses for our primary, at least our primary caregivers, right? So admissions nurses, when you're collecting stuff from the caregiver and you're collecting stuff from the patient and you have that caregiver in front of you, go ahead and get their email address. Go ahead and put it in the record. Just like we're asking them for all their doctors and their specialists, so we can have all of that data already in the record. Intake, we've asked intake folks as well to try to get this information if they can during the intake process. And then we're asking case managers, social workers, spiritual care coordinators, anybody that can get this information. It's all hands on deck, because what we'd like to be in the habit of when we actually start this in the first quarter of next year, second quarter, is that we already actually have the email addresses that we need for folks that are already on service, and we're not scrambling to do that. So that's what I've got today. Just a quick training. Anybody have any questions for me? Okay. Next week, what I'll do, since we're at the end of the day on Friday, I will send out a PDF to everyone with the instructions for going into PointCare, because I know we went through it pretty quick, and a lot of times it helps to actually kind of do it as you're looking at it. So I'll send a PDF with those instructions and those directions along with all those screenshots out. I want to thank y'all for everything you do, obviously, every day. And if you ever need anything, holler at me. But please click me to make sure that I get your attendance put down and you guys don't have to end up doing a Reliance training on it. All right. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and we will talk to y'all later.
Thank you.
Thank you.